In this session, we are going to talk about integrations. It's very common that clients or prospects, I would say, will come to us. They worked with a different developer. The developer said that they can integrate, let's say, QuickBooks or a different application with Zoho CRM or HubSpot or Salesforce. And whenever the client is starting the project, the client understands that he cannot get what he really needs. And if he wants to get what he needs, it will cost insane amount of money. And therefore, this project is failing. So they're coming to us, they're saying that 80% of the integration is done. They just need us to complete the last 20%. And that's usually will not happen because they don't have 80%, they have nothing. In this session, I will show you how to measure what is doable and what's not doable for any integration. I will show you step by step how to know it as a client without any technological abilities. And I will also show you how to architect your solution before you going to a developer, because most of the times developers don't know much about the architecture part and they will just jump into Google, will search integration with QuickBooks. Yep, it's doable, let's do it, instead of diving into the details. Eventually, when you're jumping into those projects, you're the only one who is losing because you lost time and you lost money. And now you have a broken project that can never be live. So let's jump into it. We are going to start our journey with QuickBooks. So I am going to integrate QuickBooks with Zoho CRM. Again, it's irrelevant Zoho CRM or QuickBooks or any other application, any of them are the same. It's just two applications that's supposed to talk to each other. The first thing that I'm doing as a client, as a user, I will go to Google and search for the application 1 with application 2 and integration. In this case, it's Zoho CRM to QuickBooks integration. And then I will get some results. As you will see here, the results that you are getting, one will be Zoho Flow, and Zoho Flow will not be a native integration. It will be an intermediate software that is going to talk to the two. So you will have Zoho CRM in one side, and let's say you have here Zoho CRM, and the action will be new client need to be added. That will go, in this case, to Zoho Flow, and then you will have the next step. It will be create a client in QuickBooks. So you have here an intermediate software that is going to work in this scenario. If you compare it, for example, natively to a native integration, that will look something like that. So you will have Zoho CRM, a new client is created, and then it will create, for example, automatically the client in QuickBooks. And that will be a native integration. That will be an integration with an intermediate software such as Zoho Flow. The upside of a native integration, obviously, you have less points of failure because Zoho Flow is just an application. An application can fail. And if something changes on Zoho CRM or QuickBooks, this integration will fail and you need a developer to fix it. So it's important to understand the meaning of an intermediate application. If it's being done natively, then the chances of failure are almost zero, very small. There are chances always, but they are very, very small, and this is a safer route to go. In this case, we are talking about QuickBooks. Obviously, it's a finance system. The chances for screw-ups need to be to almost zero because it's money, and money is important. Okay, let's move that aside. Now, let's continue with our journey. So first of all, we have Zoho Flow that can do the integration, and we'll talk soon what it means. And we have next, we have here some videos, And we have now Zapier. Zapier is also an intermediate software that works in between. So you're starting to get the picture how this integration is going to look like. You have now another integration, and that will be done not natively. It's using a third-party company named OneSaaS. And again, if I will continue to go down, you will see that you have more and more integrations, but the majority that I saw will be an intermediate software. Now, let's assume that you go to a developer. The developer will say, yes, I found integrations with QuickBooks, it's all doable. But the question is what it means. And let me show you how it works with all those intermediate applications. If you go to the page, for example, of QuickBooks integration, and you scroll down, you will always have triggers and actions. Trigger means that this integration will work when something happens, and this is a trigger. As an example, a new client is created on QuickBooks, and then something will be done on Zoho CRM. So this is a trigger. So for example, in this case, whenever a new account is created on QuickBooks, this integration will take place and it can create the account on Zoho CRM. From the other side, you have actions. Actions means what will be done on QuickBooks. And in this case, for example, when a bill is created on Zoho CRM, it can create the bill on QuickBooks. Okay, so you have triggers and actions. If I will go now to Zoho Flow and I will scroll down, shockingly, you will see the same thing, that you have triggers and actions. And now that we understand what is a trigger and what is an action, you can see here that you have a bunch of triggers for QuickBooks and bunch of actions for QuickBooks. Okay. In order to create the solution, first of all, you will need to understand what do you want. As an example, here I created two scenarios. Obviously, it's just an example. There will be many other scenarios in this place. But in this case, that will be a bare bones integration with CRM and QuickBooks, and I want to show you the complexity and why things are not working when you just go to a developer without thinking about it. In scenario number one, we have a lead that is being created. Obviously, when a lead is created, I don't care much about the QuickBooks side because it's just a lead, someone interested in working with me. Then this lead is converted to a contact. And in this case, you have different options. For example, maybe when it's a contact, I will create it in Zoho, in QuickBooks. In this case, I'm not doing that. Then the contact having a new deal, and in this case, I'm also not going to QuickBooks, I'm waiting more. And then there will be, for example, an estimate that is being created on Zoho. Might be Zoho Finance or might be Zoho CRM. And in this case, I will need an integration point between Zoho CRM and QuickBooks to create the estimate in both places. So an estimate is created in CRM and it's created also in QuickBooks. In this case, I will need to go to the triggers, and the first trigger will be actually on the CRM side, because whenever you have an estimate created on Zoho CRM, I like to initiate something on QuickBooks. And that means that whenever there is an estimate, I will need to find a trigger on Zoho CRM. So let's go here and go and write Zoho CRM integration Zapier. And now on the Zoho side, I need to see that there is a trigger that when an estimate is created, this is when this automation will start working. And you can see here, for example, that they have a general trigger that when a new module entry is created, such as a bill or an estimate, something will happen. So you will have a trigger on Zoho CRM. From the other side, we need on the QuickBooks, we need an action of creating an estimate. And then I will need to check here and I can see that there is a way to create an estimate. So in this case, that will work. But, and there is a huge but here, when you're creating an estimate in QuickBooks, it needs to be related to a customer. But the customer was not created yet. So you need to create now also a customer. Now, what if this customer already exists? So you need to have the integration, first of all, checking if the customer exists. And if the customer exists, now you're going and creating the estimate. If the customer is not existing, then you're going to create the customer and create also the estimate. Now, this is just an example of one point. You need to do it for the entire life cycle of everything that you want to integrate back and forth between the system. And only when you have all that, only then you can go to a developer and come as a knowledgeable person and says, this is what I need. So the developer can give you a proper estimate, and also he knows that you understand what you're talking about. Obviously, you can also go to knowledgeable companies that can do it for you. And they can also do the architecture for you, and they can do also the integration points. But most developers out there cannot do the thinking part because they're not business owners, and also they don't know your business needs and they don't know your business. And therefore, you really need to concentrate on creating those scenarios for all your integration points. The majority of the cases, whenever you will create those kind of scenarios and you will check the feasibility based on data, not on the integration part, you will see that some of what you need is not really doable, and then you will need to revise or contact someone to help you. But the bottom line is, whenever you have an architecture like that, you can see if it's doable or not. Whenever you will have the architecture done and you know all the integration points, this is where a developer will need to create the actual integration points between all those cases and create the project to work. What I recommend you is, whenever you're finishing those integration and you will have all your scenarios, I recommend you to meet with the developer after each scenario and make sure that each scenario works perfectly before he's jumping to the next scenario. Because you might find that you will give someone 8 scenarios, he will spend 2 weeks on that, and then nothing works or not working as expected, and then you're burning more time and more money. It's better to see that scenario number 1 fails, the developer cannot make it work, and bounce, stop the relationship, versus working on 8 of them. You are heavily invested into the project and it's not fun. And we see it all the time, and understand how to see and how to measure those type of integrations. And I hope that I was able to save you some money, because people wasting lots of money on those horrific projects.